Run. Okay, so we're here at Valleyview Community Church with Jason Tripp, who's pastor of Valleyview Community Church, and Steve Gudrie, pastor of Valley Pentecostal Church. And we're here to talk about Elevate Sudbury. So you guys are kind of like the driving force behind at least this area of it.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about Elevate Sudbury?
Yeah, well, maybe I'll just tell you a little bit about the vision first and kind of the backstory of how Elevate came to be. For the last 9 years, churches have been gathering together this time of year for an event called Celebrate Jesus. And that took place in Bell Park Amphitheater. It was chances for churches to get together and to enjoy a service together. And both Steve and I have been very involved with that over the years. And this year, myself and some other leaders, we were just thinking, well, what's next for this particular venture? And we thought, well, coming together for a worship service, that's good, that's great, we can do that. But let's get together, let's actually do some community service projects. Let's roll up our sleeves, work together to make our neighborhoods better places to live. And so that's really what Elevate Weekend's about. It's about the Christian community as well as any volunteers coming together just to identify tangible need in the community and then to get her done.
So this has been going on in some aspect for about 9 years, you said?
Yeah, it's probably been going on for about 9 years, but I think it was more just trying to bring the churches together. You know, we all have our different, different parts or forms of the way that we do church or we go, there's common denominator, which is Christ, but in the center fact, it's been more almost self-centered, just getting us together. And so we've all, in our own ways, have wanted to do kind of be involved in our communities and do what we needed to do in our communities. And so Elevate just launches us into getting outside of our four walls of our churches and getting into our communities and being a part of our communities and trying to really encourage other people. Hey, these are our communities. Let's get in there. Let's look after them. Let's keep them clean. Let's have some active things that we do. And a large portion of the pastors involved in Celebrate have a passion for communities. So when Jason and the rest of the guys kind of came up with this whole idea of, hey, let's incorporate doing something back into the communities. The response was phenomenal. We had a luncheon where Jason organized a luncheon where we all got together with all these pastors across the whole city, not just the valley, but across the whole city, and really launched this off that each ward is being represented, to do something in the community, and hopefully even larger than just on this Saturday coming up. But this will keep flowing day by day, and different activities that are going to happen.
How did you evolve from Celebrate to Evolve? Because obviously there's got to be some feeling that this is a different year.
Mm-hmm.
There's a transition. This is different than the previous 8. It's not the 9th.
Well, this is the 10th
Elevate.
Anniversary of
Okay,
Celebrate,
10th, okay.
and I was officially given kind of you take the reins and lead this, and I said
They don't
okay,
regret that, do they?
we'll find out next week. But I said, yeah, I'll do it under 2 conditions, and my 2 conditions up front were, let's invite every church across the city, regardless of name on the church, denomination. Let's just make this open it up, because we're doing work in our city. Let's put our differences aside, and let's just be about what Jesus said we should be about: loving God and loving our neighbor. It's as simple as that. And so that was the first stipulation. The second condition was, let's still have a worship component to the weekend, but let's add this community service element so it can be more holistic. Like let's come together and worship God, but let's spend a day just loving our neighbors, identifying community needs, no strings attached, and inviting everybody who wants to participate in that. And that's been very well received.
So really, it's not you hate to say religious, but it's not a religious event as much as a community event, but then how do you separate spiritualism and community?
Well, I guess the biggest thing that you're kind of hitting on is both Jason and I don't want to be known as religious, because that's just a format. We want to be known as Christ-like. And Christ was always out into the communities doing things. Religion is rules and regulations that we seem to put on people to make them do stuff.
And you can be Christ-like without knowing it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I guess, the whole part, that, you know, the whole thing is caring for one another and helping one another. Typically, you know, and I can speak to this, and I think Jason will kind of maybe bring the whole picture together, but for our Ward 6, we're gonna be doing helping out over at the skate park. And so we have multiple churches that are gonna be coming together, and we're gonna be planting some trees, and we're gonna be painting the ball diamond, the outfield fence, and doing that. Well, the whole cool thing about that is, like, we know how many people in our community are playing baseball, mixed ball, t-ball, all that stuff. So we're helping to do that kind of thing. So we're seeding into those people to say, hey, we got a place in our valley, you know, to go do sports, safe place, have fun, and everything else like that. We're putting in the trees because the skate park was, these kids all of a sudden had this great idea. We'd like to have a skate park in a safe place. They made all the, you know, these kids are really working hard to put this together. They went after the, you know, the politician kind of people, the council, and said, we want something someplace, and they put all the work to it. Now we're just saying, hey, we want to help you. We want to show you that, great idea, kids, great job to do. And I think that's just a common thing that we would love to see all of us do, because we've got great people in all of our wards and in the whole community. And if we all do a little bit in our communities get better. I can always, I guess maybe the way to answer your question was, when I first came, which is crazy, it's 9 years now, you know, it's gone so quickly. When I first came 9 years ago to the Valley, the board that brought me in asked me this question. He said, what do you want the relationship between Valley Pentecostal Church with the community? And I said, this is my heartbeat, is that literally, if something ever went wrong at Valley Pentecostal Church, that we financially could not keep it open, we would make such an impact in the community that the community would say, we got to keep this church open.
That's good.
And that was my heartbeat. And that's why I have no problem seating in or jumping on board to Elevate, because to me, we're giving back to the community, not just taking from the community, but giving to the community, because both of us are not in any, Jason and myself, we're on the same page, that we want to give to our community, we want to be a part of it. But I know there's lots of other service groups, there's other good people in the community that want to give. So if we can have a venue where they can start doing that, I think it can just mushroom to be even more.
Yeah. And I guess the interesting thing is, if you take a look at it and, you know, why are you doing this? Go back 9 years and take a look at the size of your congregation 9 years ago and today. Everybody knows the contributions that Valley Pentecostal Church has made to the community through your Valley East Days and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, your congregation hasn't tripled.
No.
It's not like your marketing has filled the church. It's giving purpose and meaning to the people who belong to that group.
And that's a huge point. Like, some people have asked me, what's the catch? I mean, people think there's a religious string attached. There is no string attached. I mean, and we take our marching orders from Jesus, and the word elevate actually came from a passage in Scripture that just talks about, as a church, we need to be not looking out for our own interests, we need to be looking out for the interests of others, just as Jesus has modeled and empowered us to do. He was always looking out for the least of these around him. And as followers of Jesus, not people first and foremost affiliated with the church or religion, but followers of Jesus, our posture towards others should be imitative of Christ. And so that's where we got the word elevate from. You know, we want to elevate those around us in our community by having a posture of humility and service with no strings attached. And so that's really the backstory and the kind of the vision and the heartbeat for Elevate this year.
I guess when you take a look at where is this going to go, I mean, we'll talk about what's happening this weekend too, but this is more about a movement than it is about an event. Yeah,
I like that word, movement.
It is. It's a movement. It's a trend that you're trying to, like, it's a philosophy of community. It's a community philosophy that you're trying. Now that's happened. Like that, we've had that before. Like I've lived here since 1974. Oh. You've seen it in your 9 years. You've been
yeah.
But why does it kind of peter out after a while? Like, we've always had these elevated moments of community, and then we're down, then we're back up, and we're down. Is that,
I think sometimes it becomes, there needs to be a project. You know what I mean? Yeah, like the Howard Johnson. That was something that everybody could put their teeth into for our community. We wanted a place where all of our families and kids could come and exercise and swim and have fellowship and get together with each other. So there was a common cause, you know, something that we could do. And I think Elevate just kind of does that because we've started here on Saturday just asking, you know, okay, where can we help? Well, we're gonna put some trees in, you know, at the skateboard park. There's other places we could do stuff. And hopefully that ripple effect will start happening. You know, Jason's gonna be helping to do the trail, you know, the trail out here and doing that kind of thing. So we got some people that kind of said that, and just like you were saying, it's become bigger, I think, than even Saturday, which is really cool for us. I ended up getting a phone call from somebody in the health system that turned around and said, listen, we're looking that we would like to have a community garden at a location to help students. But we're not ready for Saturday. Would you be interested in letting this whole program that you're kind of putting together work later on in the summer, and that we could get different people with maybe more maturity in gardening to help these students know how to do a garden and maybe do a community garden or something like that. And so right away I said, well, let me check with the guys that are doing it, but if they don't do it, we'll do it as a church. And and then talking to Jason saying, yeah, that's the heart we want to do. And then he's sharing with me today that, you know, the trail that they're doing, they're not gonna just do it Saturday and say, okay, we did our good deed for the week and walked away. They're taking ownership, and I guess that's kind of the thing. Taking ownership in our community, and whatever ward you're in, take it, but then overall the whole city.
Yeah. One of our colleagues in a different area of town, he used the word spark. He said this is really the spark that the churches in our neighborhood and even the counselor and some others were looking for, something to ignite some sort of rhythm. And you use the word movement. I think that's a good word, Bob. I mean, we want this to be organic. We don't want it to be overly programmatic. We just want to keep our eyes and ears open to the cares and the concerns around us in our neighborhood. And that's something that we should be doing 24/7. And so if Elevate Weekend can help stimulate some of that, or can be a spark all over Greater Sudbury, then it's achieved its purpose. And certainly we want to celebrate what's going to be happening this upcoming weekend, but if it's just an annual event or a program, that's not really what we're shooting for. We're shooting for a posture, sort of a rhythm of life that we're instilling in people in our community.
really, it's hard to be able to point to signs that you've been successful, because it would be as if when you do the Langdon Park, if you could somehow have a camera on the entire trail, and the moment that you see somebody coming by, picking up a piece of garbage and carrying it through the trail and throwing it away in the garbage container, then you've known that elevation stayed there. So when you're talking about spark and you're talking about getting to a different level, I know I like the elevate. I don't want to say I don't like celebrate, but elevate is once you get to a new level, you don't have deflate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like we're all moving toward a higher level, and that elevate is, okay, we're bringing it up to a new standard. Now, keeping that standard up is not the responsibility of the churches.
No.
It's the responsibility of the community.
Of which the churches should be an active part.
Yeah.
And so that's why we said this is not simply a church initiative. The churches are taking the lead on Elevate, but that's why we said let's connect with our community action networks, let's connect with our counselors, let's open it up to anybody who has a heart for making our community and our neighborhood a better place to live, and let's do it together, because we're all responsible for making our neighborhood a better place to live.
And really, when you take a look at churches, when you take a look at church groups, by definition, they're a community.
Exactly.
But so is a school.
Exactly.
School community.
That's
We
right.
all talk about school community. Well, so I mean, you're talking about your football team could take on a project.
Exactly, exactly. And I just think what ends up happening, exactly what you're saying, Bob, is when, I go back to the project that we're involved in. Now there's going to be older people that we might not see on a skateboard in that park using it. But they're definitely going to know those kids are there. And those kids hopefully will realize those older people are not saying, hey, shut this down, we don't want a skateboard, we don't want all these kids hanging out here and doing stuff like that. they're gonna be going, hey, we got them a safe place and a place to hang out. The other factor is that those kids that are involved in doing this are gonna hopefully take ownership, and they're not gonna be graffitiing, the ramps and everything else like that. They're gonna respect it, and just like you were saying, garbage there, we're gonna have a garbage bin or whatever set up, that they're gonna put the garbage in there instead of not, because this is a part of them. They've taken ownership in it. And I think that's the biggest thing, and our world really has revolved about everybody deserves this, right? I deserve this, and there should be somebody to pick up the garbage behind me because I did this,
We're
right?
entitled to it.
We're entitled. Entitlement is such an unbelievable, kind of a spirit over a lot of us. When we start shifting those type of things, and truly, I really believe, we have the mindset that the churches are in our communities really, to bring rules and regulations. No, it's really just to step into our communities and hopefully bring a positive part that everybody catches on. But so can schools and so can other groups. We can all do that. And if we all do that, we have a better community. That somebody comes into the valley or comes into the bigger broad picture of Sudbury, but comes into the valley and says, wow, I want to live out here. I want to be a part of this, because it is just a bigger community within the smaller communities of different interests that people have. And then all of a sudden they're going like, wow, I was in the park and somebody came up and talked to me, and like, man, I can't believe the park. I watch these people sit, and all of a sudden they're picking up the garbage behind themselves because they feel it's ours.
Yeah.
It's ours. And I think that's the only way that happens. Like that skate park, if it's just put up, the kids that use it are gonna like it, but nobody else is gonna be connected to it. Same thing with the walking park, like the walking trail. You do, the people that use the trail, but everybody else, they don't even know it exists. But you go and clean it a bit, now you're telling people, hey, we got an awesome trail in the valley, it's really cool. And they might even say, maybe we should try it and get out there and go for a walk, which is gonna increase, their health, and cause their health to be better.
And I think you're getting into this whole area of awareness too. And like the sprucing up the skateboard park is one thing, but I mean, I don't tell you, that whole park area, the playground,
Oh,
the
yeah.
tennis court, it's brutal.
Oh, yeah.
But it's kind of like the beginning of getting.
Let's take a piece of the pie, right? Let's start, but we got a whole pie to do.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's going to be some critics. There obviously have been some critics. The kids are going to tear down those trees, and I hope that the answer is, well, then we'll put another one up.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
If one gets torn down or broke, we're just not going to leave it there. We'll put another one up.
Yeah, and you put your finger on a good point. When we're overly critical or fearful of something happening, that can paralyze us from doing anything.
We can find any excuse for not
You
doing
can find,
something.
we just justify ourselves for being apathetic to the needs of our community.
I'm not going to get involved with the church. Look at all the trouble the churches are getting.
Yeah, and
We're
hey,
going to get around with politics. I'm not going to
Sure.
get involved in politics. Everybody that's in politics is corrupt.
And that might be
Just-
even an answer to your other question where you're saying, like, why do we climax, all of a sudden we've got something like, like our pool and everything else like that, everybody jumped on board at one time to do that. Not everybody, but a large core. And then now all of a sudden, certain things that we want to do, there's just no interest, nobody wants to get involved, nobody wants to do
Until they
it.
try to take it away from you.
Exactly, then all of a sudden we jump into it. So isn't it cool if we can just keep having that ownership and not that you won't share, it's kind of like, I've always laughed about, people say, well, cliques aren't good. But realistically, cliques are a part of life. We all have our groups that we're with. Cliques become bad when they become, nobody can enter your clique. Cliques are protective.
The closed
They
clique.
get you to know. When they become a closed clique, that's when the problem happens. And communities can become closed cliques. Because what ends up happening is we've got our group and we're all happy and we don't want anybody else in. And but when we leave it open, then there has to be that invitation. And I think that invitation is like seeing people that may never use that skateboard park or walk on that trail, but have ownership to say, we want it in our community for people in our community that we may never use it. And the problem with our world today in a lot of cases is, what am I getting out of it? Just like Jason was saying, what's in it for me? Well, I'm not gonna use that park, why do I need to go and help do that? I'm not gonna use the pool, I'm not gonna do, You know, I'm not gonna use the ball field, why should I go out there and paint the posts on the outfield of the ball field? I'm not gonna use that.
I was thinking, I wanted to see you on a skateboard, Steve. Come on.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So that whole mindset. So I think when you start looking beyond yourself and saying, you know what, this is our community, this is our valley, this is who we are, you know, and we wanna look after every age bracket that we can, and different things that we can do. And isn't it kinda cool, like, and I guess this is my whole desire to see, is that those young guys that are gonna be skateboarding and young girls that are gonna be skateboarding would be there and come alongside me and somebody else planting a tree. Maybe we can tell them, you know, if you put some bone meal in there, that helps the roots, and if you get some water, so we're educating them in, and being a teacher yourself, former teacher, you know, the best is on hands teaching than just out of a textbook. And so now we're showing him that someday he's gonna have his own backyard, and he's gonna wanna put a tree in his backyard, he's gonna go, I remember when those guys came over here, you know, and did it. And who knows, maybe one of those 60 or 50 or whatever year old might be able to get on a skateboard and go down there, and those young guys are just gonna look and go like, whoa, you know?
That'd be the ambulance attack. I think the thing that discourages a lot of people is that they don't understand that sometimes a seed takes a long time to break ground.
Sure.
And you know, when you relate to teaching and you relate to, well, are these kids going to start showing the results? It may not be until they're 20 years from now that they actually say, I'm doing this, and I think it had a lot to do with that skateboard park.
Yeah, absolutely. That really is, that seed analogy is a good one for Elevate, because we see this Elevate year one as just being a seed. And you said, you know, it'd be nice to be able to have some specific measurement tools to gauge success. Well, we've been talking in our church, and I'm sure Steve has as well. Like, how do we define success in a church, per se? And historically, it's been, you know, butts and seats and budgets and buildings. But we're saying no. Are we adding value to our community? Like Steve said, if we're not making our community a better place to live, we are failing as a church community. And so we're just going to go plant a seed, and it might take years to germinate and grow. But that would hopefully should keep us motivated to add a little more water to the seeds year by year by year, and just step back and see what happens.
And not get discouraged if they don't all take root.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, both Jason and I probably realize our whole congregations aren't coming up to Elevate. That's sad for us.
But you're not.
But we're hitting a percentage, and hopefully that percentage is that seed that will germinate into the rest. That the next time we do Elevate, we double our numbers because people have grown into that heart of giving and helping others. Now we always have people away on vacation, people working or whatever, but it's the heartbeat that has to change. And if you can start with a few, you can start making that change. And it's the willingness, like you said. How many times do we put a seed in? I remember, you know, my grandkids put a seed in the ground, they come out the next day to see the plant, and it's not there. And that'll go for maybe 3, 4 days. Then they want to dig up the dirt to get to the seed to make sure it's still there. And a lot of times what we do is we, you know, like Elevate, we'll seed into a community and do something like that. And if we don't see a response right away, we sometimes dig it up, which just ends up killing it. Instead of just be patient, wait, it's going to come. And you have to nurture it, right? You still got to water it even though you don't see it. You still got to pull the weeds out. And just like you were saying, hopefully somebody is not going to go and say, you know, oh, those kids, they're going to just break the trees that you're putting in there. Oh, well, we're not going to plant any more trees. No, hopefully we're going to go, hey, we put 20 trees in, they broke one. We got 19 that are up.
Yeah.
So let's put one in. We did really well, you know, and hopefully those young guys, and I guess this is what I've found in all my, you know, my years of coaching and different things like that. If they take ownership, they'll police it. And that's the greatest thing, because what are we going to do? Put a guard on the skate park that nobody graffitis it? You know, the whole reality. But if the kids are there and somebody shows up, the word gets around school, it gets around everywhere else and finds out who it is, and next time they just go, you know, hey, that's our skateboard park. You know, keep your mitts off of it.
Yeah,
And if a community does that, it's our community, right? It's our community. We want it to go this way. We want people to feel safe and have fun and enjoy themselves and know that they're cared about. it's gotta start someplace. And it has already, right?
Yeah.
We've got a lot of great things in the valley
Yeah.
because groups or individuals had a vision and said, you know what, let's do this.
Yeah. I think when you take a look at some of the projects and some of the things that have gone on, they've been great. A lot of work to organize these things. It's just
Absolutely.
huge. And to get the same people to come out and continue year after year, we're starting to find now that people are just, they're getting burned out and there's nobody to take their place. I know I've talked to a few people and I've explained back when, you know, in the 60s and 70s and 80s, when you were a young parent, it was your turn to look after the playground when your kids were using it. And there were enough people that when your kids stopped using the playground, there were other kids coming in to use the playground, and their parents came
Yep.
into it. So you had nice playground associations. Now we're getting into, they're using these facilities not as their core entertainment facility, but it's when they need it, they're using it, but they don't have enough energy to put all of their energy to keep it going. So now it's like, we're into this on demand. It's like, you know, we'll do this program, we could do the program on radio, but I'm finding putting them on video means it's there when people want it. Now, how many people are gonna come and get it? Who knows, but it's there.
Yeah.
And so when you're getting into Elevate, you're getting into all the projects, I always look at it from a point of view that if you're doing something that adds value to your community, you've changed your community. You can't devalue that.
Right.
So you've already elevated your community.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter if it's picking up that one little piece of paper.
Absolutely.
You've made the community very minutely, but you've increased the value.
Yeah.
So whether you have these big events or not, that increases the value a little bit more. But all these, the people in your congregation that are not coming out to help, it doesn't mean that they're not changed.
Absolutely.
They're
Yeah,
probably
that's right.
changed.
Absolutely, that's huge, because I mean, there's joy in just serving. I mean, when people, they're skeptical of it until they get out and actually do it. It's
And
like,
that's some of
wow,
it.
I was trying to fill a need here for somebody else, but I received something at the same time.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
there's joy from being part of the group that's doing it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't have to
Exactly.
be there. They can say, I'm part of that group.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's even the comment that came back, and I don't know if Jason's had this happen, but, you know, Father Michael from St. Kevin's, you know, he turns around, he says, I'm gonna be there. And he says, it's gonna be really cool to see you, Steve. Because we may cross paths where he does a funeral and it's somebody that I'm connected to and I'm in his parish, you know, at the funeral, and that's as close as we get. Is
You go in the doors? You go in each other's doors?
Oh, I hope so. Yeah, well, I do anyways, right? I do anyways, and I know that, you know, but that kind of situation where, you know, we're looking forward to seeing each other.
Yep.
And like his comment to me was, he says, this would be really cool, Steve, for both of, you know, his parish and our church to come together and work, let alone what we're even doing for the kids, just the fact that church to church. And I think that's why Celebrate went the way it did for a period of time, because the churches had to get used to getting ready for this, you know, working together and not saying, well, I want all the credit, or I want that. Some of those things had to be molded out, and it's sad to say, but it had to be, you know, put together I really believe it was the right time and the right guys to launch this, that, you know, all of a sudden we were ready to do that. And I think our communities have to get to that point too. And I think our world has become so busy, Bob. These young couples with a couple of kids are both working, everything else like that, they're exhausted by the time they get home. They can barely keep their grass cut at their home, let alone, you know, maybe jump on something like that. And then even the financial obligations that are on them and everything. But if they could do just a little thing, and that's where I really agree with you, it doesn't have to be a major big thing. And I think the other thing is, you know, with Elevate, we didn't just come in, and I really like where Jason and the committee went with this. They didn't just come in and say, oh, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. They asked the communities or the wards that they were at, what can we do for you? And I think that changes it too. Instead of coming in kind of like a dictatorship and say, hey, I got the answer for you, this is what we're gonna do. They said, what can we do for you? A servant's heart, right? And I really believe as we start getting that, more people, and I mean, it has to get to a point where, you know, people that are in need, or, you know, parks that need to be done or whatever, can turn around and have someplace maybe to contact, you know, through your Facebook or whatever, and say, this is kind of a need, can we get a group of people together to kind of help these people out? I mean, we know what it's like, man, we get calls in our own churches, and that's that community church thing where I get seniors that no longer can do something, that come to me and say, Pastor, is there anybody that can cut my lawn or shovel my, you know, garden? And so hopefully we can help them out later on in the season, get some other people involved in that, and see who we can get to kind of help them out with some other students and keep this going. And, you know, maybe over, you know, I imagine Jason's probably gonna have a meeting after this is all done. Okay, guys, how did it go? What went well? What didn't go well? And maybe even from there is like, okay, how do we keep this going? Just like you were saying, Bob, you know, like, do we have, you know, how do we let people know they can contact us, and it's not just us contacting them? Can, you know, like, well, I've got something to do, and how can we do that? And how can we keep that going and become bigger than just our own church memberships, but our community?
Well, you kind of have made it easier with the proximity of your projects.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a specific part of your plan or not, but it's so easy for you to take a walk over to Langdon Park every now and then to see if, and it's so easy for you to walk over to the skateboard park. So it becomes kind of like, well, you know, it's on your way to church.
Yeah, exactly.
I go there for
drop
lunches
it.
sometimes.
It's just a good way.
Yeah,
So somebody's gonna be there to make sure that
yeah.
the tree gets put back up, or somebody's gonna.
Oh,
so-
absolutely.
Because I think one of the, and it's a psychological study that was done, that if you want to eliminate graffiti on walls, you paint over the graffiti every time it's done. You don't leave it there.
Exactly.
Because by leaving it there, it's like, and it's the same as anything, leave garbage on the ground, someone else is gonna throw garbage on it, because that's what you do with it.
Yeah,
If you pick it up, someone might throw it down, but not as often.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And so you're, and again, there's that whole shift back to, well, then let's take care of the neighborhoods, because it's not hard for people living in a neighborhood to drive by a playground.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you drive by a playground and you see the net starting to come up, well, let's just stop, get the ladder, we'll put it up.
Yeah.
In 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So I like that. I think it's good. It's, and we'll keep it going. Hopefully there'll be a lot of activity and commotion and recognition.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, we gotta, every time someone does something good, some smaller thing, then we have to give that recognition too, I would think. So, it's good. And we'll do this, we'll do a follow-up when it's finished, but I think
Sounds great.
between Elevate and between philosophy of life and philosophy of community, I think we cover it all.
Yeah, well, let me just throw in, like, if people want more information, where they can go.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a website up
It's
and
this
running.
Saturday, right?
Yeah, it's Saturday, June 7th, all these projects are going, and 12 projects, so people are watching this outside of Valley East, there's projects going all over Greater Sudbury, and all those projects are listed on sudburychristian.ca/elevate, so people can access information there. We also have an email address, it's elevatesudbury@gmail.com, so people have questions or want to give feedback, we're going to be looking for some feedback, as Steve alluded to. We want to get the feedback, we value the feedback not only of the church, but the wider community, and how we can continue to make this grow and develop, and
Okay.
everybody benefits because of it, so, thanks so much, Bob.
Hey, those have been great, and when this is being looked at on Facebook, underneath or at top or around another post, you can put that information.
Absolutely.
So that the
Yeah.
video will be there,
Yeah,
but you can add the rest so that as people are looking at it, they can
Excellent.
catch it, and
Yeah.
we'll get back.
Yeah, and if people are curious about what happened outside of their particular project, outside the valley, we're actually having our final celebration service at Glad Tidings Church on the Sunday evening. That'll be at 6:30. We're gonna check-in, Steve will be sharing, and everybody will be sharing 2-minute testimony, kind of with pictures and videos of what happened all over Sudbury. So that'll be a good time
That
of
could be
celebration.
videotaped, and
Yeah.
we can see it. Hey,
Yeah.
that could be recorded, that would be nice.
Yeah, oh, make a note of that, and we'll get that done for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Because
So
then-
every ward that got involved, and I think we got 12 awards?
We got 12 wards and 12 projects, not necessarily one per ward, but
Yeah.
we do have 12 projects.
But we
ongoing.
covered quite a few of the
Mhm.
wards, right?
Mhm.
You know, and so I would say close
We
to
got 10 of the
10
12 wards.
10 of the 12 wards got involved in it. So
This
that's
is year
not
one,
bad
so-
for the first time stepping in.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes it was hard to get all the apostles together.
That's right. It's true, it's true.
So,
Yeah.
hey, that's
Good
great.
stuff.
So thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Jason, it's been good, and
Yeah.
we will do some follow-up on it.
Sweet.
See where it goes.
Well, thank
Thanks
you
a
so
lot
much for
for
having
having
us,
us.
buddy.
Thanks, take
So,
care.
so good.